Mr. Hei, you have been following this with quite keen interest. Is there anything in particular that stood out for you in this year's budget speech?
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me. I think it was a fairly balanced budget. The three pillars that the Minister of Public Enterprise and the Finance and Public Enterprise Minister outlined, which is the pro-sustainability, the pro-poor, which obviously had practical expression as well in terms of the 50,000 that has been moved up to 100,000 minimum taxable income in terms of the threshold. Pro-growth, which is the third pillar that the minister spent a bit of time on. What was particularly encouraging for me was really what we had predicted earlier in terms of the increased projected revenue for 2023-2024, which is quite positive because what that does, it does bring down the budget deficit, which the minister also spoke about, which is quite encouraging because what that means is that there could be a bit of fat being skimmed towards the capital budget, which essentially would then try to accelerate economic growth. Obviously, we are also excited about the work that the minister spoke about in relation to Transnamic in terms of the support that they might get in that respect. MIDCO as well is on the agenda, so we could find some level of certainty. There's currently the investment bill that are taking comments currently, and subsequently will bring about certainty for investment.
Right. Now, does the budget speech speak to economic growth for the ordinary citizen in the street or the subsistence farmer or the Kapana street vendor? You talked about a pro-poor budget. Does it speak to these people?
Well, it does. I mean, what you want to see is the sort of support that the social safety net has been sort of increased in relation to the most vulnerable. There could potentially be opportunities for everyone in terms of the street vendor from the component that if you have an increase in the development budget, it could be that there's more that will be employed in the labor-intensive sectors that the minister spoke about, like agriculture. More so, there could be opportunities that come as a consequence of the rehabilitation of the railway. So what that means is that we'll be able to spend our money on the street vendors, we'll be able to spend our money on the Kapana traders, and that's a ripple effect that might come through as a consequence of the increase in the capital budget, where opportunities could come for further job creation and job opportunities, and subsequently an increase in disposable income across the board.
Now, is there anything that you think was not addressed that you feel deserved more attention?
Well, I think what we have seen is that, again, there's an increase in education allocation or education appropriation. And I think the Honorable Minister, again, made the point that the issue is not so much a money problem because there is sufficient funding flowing towards the education cluster. The problem rather is around the inefficiencies within that. And I think what we want to see is a bit of a clear plan in that respect to make sure that we start having an outcome-based education that will be able to prepare these young people for the labor market, but at the same time also prepare them being highly productive citizens of the country. Maybe it's also worth mentioning that it's quite welcome news that the census will finally take place this year, because that would be able to inform other statistics that could have been lagging because of the national sample that wasn't representative at the time. But over and above that, it's really a balanced budget. I think it's really one of the better budgets we had in relation to the whole COVID situation that we were in, and the fiscal consolidation cycle that we think perhaps could have come to an end now. We are in fiscal sustainability.